Hi guys, welcome to the No Bullshit Gymcast podcast. And the man, the myth, legend is back again. If I don't know it, Paul does. Um, Paul, welcome on board again, mate. It was great having you back on after last
Thank
time.
you.
So we both came up with this idea, the old magical performance enhancing drugs. So we're
Oh,
gonna do this.
those gems.
Yeah, one of those gems. Right. We're going to do this as a two-parter as well. So this is going to be even better for you guys and girls out there. So, not being sexist, we are going to split it up to the two sexes. So today we're going to do the podcast on PEDs. Also might go into the realm of peptides as well. I'm not too sure on that, but basically it's going to be around the gents today. So, guys, Paul, what would you do if you've got a client who comes to you? What is the first thing you do if a client goes to you and says, Paul, like I feel like I'm at my top of my game, I've reached my full potential, I want to go on PEDs?
Cool. That's a really good question. So the first thing I normally do is I can swear in this podcast, right?
Yeah, yeah, you can swear, you can do
Yeah,
it.
cool. Cool. Normally I tell them to fuck off. And because people's potential or what they think their potential is and how hard they've actually pushed themselves is very different from reality. I think we talked about this in the last podcast about how people sandbag their lifts and stuff like that. I generally want to see a fairly decent crack at it for a number of years before PEDs come into it. Now, there will be some exceptions to the rule. Now, I haven't come across them too much in my own career. Like, if you got a guy who's like just genetically gifted for doing this thing and they want to compete at the highest level, you'd push them into it. Like, or you wouldn't push them. If they said yes, you'd say, yeah, okay, cool, fair enough. Like, these are the people who look at the weight and grow. Because the first thing with PEDs, for everyone listening, and competitive bodybuilding does not pay bills. Okay. You don't make money off it. You make money off leveraging it into other business and stuff like that, but you're not going to get paid. You're not going to make a lot of money from winning your local show, right? It's not going to get you anything. It might reimburse your show up,
I,
your sign up fee.
I'm going to beg to differ. Well, I sort of differ on this one. A lot of people, I've done one show, I'm now a prep coach. Everyone sign up with me. Yeah, there we are. That's how I'm making my money.
Yeah.
I've done one
That's
show.
how they make money.
I'm
Not not the actual,
one show wonder, and I'm now the best coach on the planet.
yeah. They're not a that's how they make money. It's actually not from the show itself, it's from bullshitting post. So if someone wants to do sorry, steroids, the first thing that we kind of talk about is cool, why do they want to do it and really get into it. And the first things that I want to kind of clarify from that point there is it just like a shortcut thing? Are they just dissatisfied with their progress so far? And then I want to look at what their actual adherence has been to a program. Now, if someone has only been training for 6 months and they say, I want to blast gear because I haven't hit my potential, it's like, bro, it's been 6 months. Like, let's take a moment. Let's think about this. Uh, so I want to see a good number of criteria. Like a good number of criteria for me, I would be doing anywhere from between 3 to preferably 5+ years of proper training, proper nutrition tracking, proper sleep, proper recovery, all good shit, before someone goes on PEDs. I would also like to see, and of course we're talking about gentlemen today, not females. I want to see some good I want to see some good lifts. Okay. Like there is a reason why the 5 plate dead, 4 plate squat, and 3 plate bench are standards. If someone, they're all drug-free achievable. I achieved all of them drug-free. They are really like obviously let's not take into account orthopedic concerns, but as a general rule of thumb, they're pretty good standards for someone to get to before they go to PEDs because it shows that they've at least built a good amount of contractile tissue. And then next thing I want to ask them about is how do they feel about needles? Because the worst thing you can do is jump straight into Anavar or an oral only cycle. You need to be able to like you're gonna need to take testosterone and take a needle at some point, so you need to feel comfortable there. And then how comfortable are they with measuring all their health metrics and making sure that stuff is okay? Because the sad reality is, for most of us, and me included, we don't all have the genetics to get up on the Olympia stage. And no amount of gear is going to change that around.
But this is where I'm going to come in. I want to come in on this is with modern society, it's this I want to have the end goal. right now. It's
Yes,
literally
it is a very challenging thing.
it's more and more and more. And there's another question to this we'll come into later on in the podcast. But I'm just seeing more and more and more with a lot more people, even though it's even more accessible now to do blood work. How many, you probably know half a dozen private companies in and around Sydney who would do private blood
Yep.
testing. Same here in and around where I live. Um, I would always ask someone to do bloods before any conversation whatsoever, and I don't think people do enough of it.
You know what? I am in concurrence with you. 100% concur. Uh, you need to do bloods before you do a cycle. Like, because most of the cycles you see on the internet or your Reddit forums and stuff like that, Reddit, the forum of death, are just like terrible cycles that are designed for basically taking a pro cycle is the worst thing you can do because they've been building up to Van Malen gear. You don't just hop on 3 grams a week, or 200 milligrams a trend every 2 days, as I've seen people do. I've seen people do this and I've had to fix their gyno and help them with other issues post. So yeah, blood work needs to be done. You need to do a your cholesterol panel. You need to do a liver panel. You need to do a kidney panel. You need a comprehensive blood chemistry. You need hematology. You need all these things marked because when you're taking performance enhancing drugs, sure, they accelerate all muscle building process. Like, let's not pretend they don't. Like, we know that.
We all
They
know.
make you bigger. They make you stronger. They also accelerate every other process.
Mm.
Okay, so they'll hypertrophy organs as well. They will negatively affect if there's already negative organ function, they will just exacerbate that. So, and all different compounds do that to a different extent. So if you have to do blood work, you need to also see, all right, cool. What do I need to do to get right beforehand if there is something wrong? Because let's not pour kerosene on a fire. And then what do I need to do proactively during my cycle to make sure I don't damage my health to the point where it's actually going to be a long-term consequence, which isn't worth it for a couple of kilos of muscle for most people.
It's not. It really isn't. But obviously, they're probably the two things that we really need to consider is have a big, long, hard conversation. Also, do your blood work, and as you pointed out, have that conversation about jabbing yourself with a needle. Like, I'm sure you can remember the first time you did it. I can. And I was like, I didn't like needles before doing it at all. And I'm like, I go and have my bloods done probably 4 times a year. And I'm like, yeah, I get a bit nervous even with the nurse. But for some
Yep.
strange reason, I can do that all on my own now. But I still get nervous. So, guys, you got to consider this before you even think about it realistically. I.e., you're going to be jabbing yourself multiple times a week, depending on the compounds, how much you're taking, etc., etc.
Yep. I actually fainted the first time I used I put in my quad of all places to start with, which is a silly idea. Um,
Ouch.
and I hit the deck, and then I hit the deck bad, and I didn't even I was using a combination of starting of testosterone and Masteron, and I didn't realize that you could put them both into the one needle at that time. So I actually, after I fainted and got back up, I then had to do the other damn needle into the other quad. And then the next day was a very painful day on the old legs,
Oh,
walking around, and it was a leg day, and I trained legs. Um, it was a very average couple of days. And of course, it was the first day I'd used the compound. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go hard because it's in me now. I'm good to go. I'm jacked. I'm Ronnie Coleman. And yeah, it was crippling. But it is a reality. Like you need to be aware that, okay, cool. I'm going to stick a needle that doesn't look very appealing into a muscle. It's going to hurt. Initially, you're probably going to draw blood and do some stuff at some times and do something wrong. Uh, and it's a consequence. And you're going to get like post-injection pain and you're going to get like little bumps and shit like that. And you need to do other stuff for that as well to get out of it. And it's a reality. And if a lot of people aren't prepared to do that, then like doing an oral only cycle is incredibly, incredibly detrimental to your health.
oh, I know so many guys out there who go, "Oh, I don't want to jab myself. I don't want to jab myself. What happens if I hit a vein? right? Well, it's worse long term by taking a ruckload of orals on your internals. Poor
Yep,
old
exactly.
kidneys, liver get trashed, absolutely trashed, and they don't understand this. And it's like, guys, I can tell you a really funny story. I was head PT at a gym um here in the UK probably about 8 9 years ago. I had one of the sales girls come up to me and go, Chris, I've got a little problem. My boyfriend's got this, looks like an abscess on his butt cheek. I'm like, well, what's happened? She goes, well, and this guy was like probably close to 6 foot, but skinny little runt. And I'm like,
Yep.
gone, she's gone, oh, well, he jabbed himself in the butt cheek. I was like, right, what color was the needle? Oh, green. I'm like,
Oh,
so he's pulled a 23 gauge out and jabbed his ass with a drawing needle.
yeah. Ouch. That's
And
nasty.
yeah, next minute, 3 days later, after having this abscess cut out of his butt cheek, he's dragging his right leg in through the front door of the gym.
Jesus, and that
I was
you do
like,
get that though. Like,
literally
uh,
dragging
uh,
his leg. Couldn't move.
that's horrendous, and that is a consequence of it because there's also even with the non-draining needles, you can also get an abscess from the other needles, the injection needles, just from having poor hygiene around it.
Yeah.
Uh, and again, you need to be, getting the alcohol swabs, wiping your gear before you draw. You need to wipe the area. You need to basically do proper hygiene practices for that because the risk of an abscess is very real
Yeah.
for people. I've had clients get them from incorrect hygiene, and they've had to go. You got two options at that point. You go get on antibiotics, or you go get drained.
Mm.
And if you go get antibiotics, you then need to have the conversation with the doctor and how you got them.
Precisely. Precisely. I've seen another guy literally like I reckon it was a bit of dodgy gear. I don't know. But literally did his delt, jabbed his
Yep.
pinned his delt, and no joke, it looked like there was a golf ball on top of his delt. And I
Oh,
was
that's
like,
gross.
man. So he had to go and have that drained. So yeah, I've seen some like some horror stories. I'm sure you have. But these
Yep.
things you guys have got to be really, really careful with. As Paul's saying, hygiene comes first in all of this. It doesn't matter how many times you wipe the area you're doing it on, it doesn't matter. Alcohol wipe it as much as you can. And then when you're drawing the gear out of the vial, make sure you've cleaned it before you've drawn it.
Yep.
It's
And
not
you actually
hard.
missed out. We said one point there too that we haven't actually even touched on yet. The guy had dodgy gear, right? Or possibly had dodgy gear.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
do get dodgy gear because generally a lot of the time steroids, or if they're prescribed by a doctor for TRT, it's legal, but like a lot of it is just sold is shit.
Mm,
So you need to have a high quality supplier as well because what you say or what you pay for is often not what you get
mm,
with that. So it's often chased with different compounds, cheap carrier oils that cause irritation.
mm,
So also need to get, not only do you need to, be get your bloods done, need to probably do a whole bunch of health promoting activities after you start taking gear, like, daily cardio and stuff like that, and supplementation, which we haven't even talked about yet. You need to be aware that you need to stab yourself with a needle and be okay with that. You need to practice proper hygiene practices. And you also then need to be aware that a lot of gear is crap and you need to actually get good stuff,
yeah. And
which costs money.
which costs a hell of a lot of money. And
Yep.
like we're in two opposite ends of the world here. I know how hard it is to get stuff down under, and I know how easy it is to get stuff here in the UK. Um, yes, it's illegal in both countries. On a technicality, it is, you can't bring it into Australia. You should never bring it into
Yep.
Australia. The old sniffer dogs, they're still trained. It might not be class A narcotics, but they're still trained. And,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
it's a big risk if you want to take it because the reward of that is not good. Trust, seen a lot of people. I think I believe it was Sylvester Stallone got done for bringing growth hormone in 1 year.
Yep, he brought growth hormone into Australia. Yep.
Yep.
And he got in trouble for it.
He got a big slap on the wrist and a big fat fine. So if he's got away with it, he's a movie star. So imagine if you're just one of these people trying to get into Australia on a holiday with your gear. It's not worth the risk. Same with the
It's not
UK.
worth, yeah, it's not worth the risk, and that's another point we haven't touched on. You are doing is illegal drug for whatever reason. Like in terms of talking about its illegality versus uh its illegality versus like say cocaine and other types of drugs like that, right? I think there's certainly a place. Like from personally, I think if people can undergo transgender therapy, they should be able to take anabolic steroids. I think it should be a choice like that. Similar, if you can take smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol, you should be able to take steroids. There should be some more services available for people to do that safely, but there's not, and that's okay. That there with the travel thing, it does also limit your ability to travel and actually enjoy your trip. So if you're going for a 4 week trip to somewhere, which is, a dream for a lot of people to have that time, your your natural production of testosterone ceases to exist after injecting for a period of time. And it only stays in your blood for X amount of time, depending on the compound and how fast you break that down individually. So at say 2 weeks of after not using it, you can start 2 to 3 weeks, you start feeling pretty flat. And it makes a pretty major impact on your ability to enjoy yourself and do all the things that you want to do. So I'm currently in New Zealand and I'm what? Look at now, Sunday would be my last one. I am now 2 weeks and 2 days into since my last injection. So I should start to be on my downward swoop in the next couple of days
You will
of
be.
my levels going down. So my energy will start to decline, my cognitive focus, my mood will start to drop. All these things will start to have negative impacts on me. Now, I was aware of that before I went. Sacrifice I made. It was a 3 week trip. I was prepared for that, but a lot of people aren't. So that's something that we also need to consider if you're using it. Like it's a and that'll probably the last thing I can say with consideration is it's not something you do for 12, 24 weeks and then you jump off. Like if you do it, you're kind of on it for a long period of time because what it does to your own natural production of testosterone. You're off basically if you're on it, it's 30 years on
Yeah,
for most people. And a lot of people don't think, oh shit, am I willing to inject myself with a needle at least once a week for the next 30 years?
probably not. Not a lot of people are. But then we could get onto the conversation of is it right to come off or is it right to blast and cruise through?
Cool. So that's a great question. So I use three models that we look at there. No, in my own personal practice, right?
Mhm.
So with people, so uh, I do help people with normal TRT. These are people who have gone to a medical doctor, they've gone through the process, and they've had TRT. But in Australia, just for context, it's very hard to get TRT with Australia, even medically, even with low tests. Okay. So I will consult people who have got it, they've gone to the doctor, and doctor's like, cool, I'm going to inject you once every month. And that's not going to do anything for their levels. It's going to give them a quick, little boost for like 2 days, and then they're going to go back down, feel like shit. So I help those people with TRT. Now, in those situations, because it's TRT, they're generally on it for a period of time, and that's okay. So it's normal TRT, which is something that when most people do it, they're on it for a long period of time. I then use what I call a safer use model, or what is called a safer use model. It was kind of bought that name by Victor Black, just to make sure I give him a shout out. And it's where you work out what is the safest amount that someone can use, like the tolerable dose that they can use for a long period of time. The goal behind that is not to become a competitive bodybuilder. The goal is to perform at a higher level, to have a higher than average level of tissue, to look good, to feel good, and to mitigate side effects throughout that time. So, will it get you big enough to go on Olympia stage? Hell no. It's why I'm not big enough to go on Olympia stage, right? Well, it's one of many reasons why I'm not big enough, but it like I can maintain a much higher level of tissue, much higher level of training performance, and feel good with like my blood work is pretty damn nice. So great, fantastic. So that kind of like safe use model, anywhere between 3 to 5 milligrams of total anabolic compounds per kilogram of tissue seems to fit in that. Now there is a genetic component to that. So I can go up to 5 milligrams per kilo tissue without having any sides at all. I get no acne. I get no hair loss, I get no moods, I get no going, I get nothing. Like it's great. Whereas I have other clients who, as soon as they get to that 3 milligrams or 4 milligrams per kilo of tissue, acne, hairs falling out, all that type of stuff. So you do need to modify the compounds up. We'll talk about that later. And then sports TRT, which is for performance stuff, is anywhere from 5 to 10 plus milligrams per kilo. And they're the ones that you probably need to cycle on and off because of the actual stresses of building that much tissue. So let's just say I'm going to go on 10 milligrams per kilo tissue. Okay. I'm 100 kilos. So what's that going to give me? A gram, right?
Graham, yeah.
A gram of gear. A gram of gear, starting at a gram. If I haven't done a gram before, after 16 weeks of doing a gram of gear per week, do you think my health markers are going to be good or do you think they're going to start to decline?
They're going to start to decline.
They start to decline. So what you do is you basically go on a cycle, like you go off cycle, so you cruise to wash away those nasty side effects that you get. Your body recovers. Your body is, luckily for gear users, the body is pretty damn resilient, right? And as long as you're not like, getting, taking illicit drugs, taking a whole bunch of other medications that get metabolized by the liver and drinking like a pisshead, like generally you can wash it away over like a blast cruise cycle and generally keep like a small amount in the system just to keep you stop everything from going downhill. Because you maintain about 85% of every tissue from every blast. So when you lose a little bit, you've still gained 85% more than what you had.
Yep.
So now some bodybuilders are taking that up to, I've seen one guy, the highest dosage I saw recently was around 15 grams total per week
Yeah.
in weekly gear. Now, that guy is Olympia level competitor in classic physique, which is wild. He might move to opens. Now, in those situations, you absolutely have to blast and cruise because there's no way a human being can sustain that amount of gear for that long without having serious issues. So the conversation I have with people is what's the kind of outcome that you want from it? And I then go into the conversation, do you want to be a competitive bodybuilder? Because it's going to become probably either the first or the second most important thing in your life.
Mm.
Okay. It's either work or family is number one or bodybuilding. It's like work, family, and bodybuilding are the top three in your life in that particular scenario. And generally work supports the bodybuilding and the family kind of has to tolerate it,
Yeah.
is the way I like to say it. And are you prepared? Are you going to eat like this every single meal for the rest of your life? Well, for the next like 10 years or so, are you going to train like this intensity, hit these metrics? And like I know someone, like I have a friend who he just competed in his first IFBB Pro Show yesterday or the day before. He first ever Pro Show, he placed top 10 in Olympia qualifier, so pretty damn good showing. Um, he's willing to do it. And I see he documents it all on his Instagram and his YouTube. Like this guy is a machine, and you can see it in his results. But when you actually speak to not many of his clients look like that because they're not willing to do the work that he does. Okay, and he's phenomenal. So let's not. I'll give him full credit. So with that versus blast and cruise, it kind of depends on what you want to get out of it. I think most people having a solid, stable level that is above physiological testosterone, but not like going super high in terms of milligrams, for the long term generally tends to give people everything they want. And then by monitoring blood work on a regular basis, so you said every 12 weeks or so 4 times a year, for
Mm.
example, um, if you stick to that dosage and after 4 blood work tests that everything's looking good, you could then, in theory, you could probably drop down twice a year because you're sticking to the same level and your body probably isn't going to maladapt.
Mm.
So yeah, it really does depend like blast cruise and versus staying on it regular. You will always have to stay on some small amount regular. Okay, it's for TRT because going on a blast where you're doing like 5 grams of gear per week and then going down to zero, your testicles aren't going to know what hit them, and neither is anything else.
They're gonna be flat. They're gonna be flat.
They're not gonna be testicles anymore. You're just gonna have a sack waving in the wind, and it's just gonna have nothing in the sack. It's gonna be an empty sack, and so you need to always keep something in there. But yeah, with blast and cruise, it depends on the outcome that you want. And in my experience, and for the clientele I work with, the vast majority of people don't really want to do the blast and cruise because the consequences and the challenges of doing it. The hardest part of that conversation is talking to the people who want to blast because they just want to get big quickly. And they say, oh, let me just use trend, let me just use bold known or EQ, let me just use Winnie, whatever it is, because I think it's going to get me massive fast. And from my experience, all anabolics have a slightly different compound, but they different outcomes that they do, but they all accrue protein at a pretty similar level. Like it's not, there's going to be no magic compound that if you just chuck in 200 milligrams of trend into your cycle per week, that you're just going to magically gain like 400 kilos of muscle tissue.
You
And
have to
that's the biggest
sleep,
challenge.
you still have to eat, you still have to train, you still have to sleep. It is like we haven't even touched on this, right? The
Oh,
impact from the get go. If you're actually thinking about going on PEDs at all, okay, either you are a single guy and you stay single, or you have the most understanding partner or future partner down the road on this planet, because you are going to bounce up and down. You are going to have good days, bad days, shit weeks, shit great weeks, PBs coming out your ass, and or you plateau and you feel like shit. There's been
yep,
times when I've been on a lot of stuff at one point, and I can remember, yeah, I'm stuck on like 60-kilo dumbbells. Why aren't I going anywhere? And this lasted for weeks. And then I start questioning it. And it does play. It plays mentally on you as well as physically. And these are the things that you guys out there really need to understand before you even contemplate jumping on this lifestyle of taking PEDs. It's not like a Mickey Mouse thing. It's something you
yeah.
really do need to consider.
There's something with that. As soon as you take PEDs, you automatically give yourself body dysmorphia for the rest of your life. You will never be big enough. You will never be lean enough. You'll never be strong enough on PEDs. You always want more
Yeah.
because when you see that initial rush, because there is a rush that like pretty much everyone gets in strength or muscle or body composition. Uh, from taking years. Once you get that rush and that initial like newbie gains all over again, it doesn't come back again. It's really sucky. And also PEDs are neurotoxic. They're toxic to your neurology. So for Tren, for example, it just use Tren because I like picking on Tren. It messes
We keep
with
on it.
your body's ability to, your brain's ability to use dopamine. It affects the dopamine receptors, so it affects things like your sex drive, your sexual preferences, the things that you think about, your aggression levels. All these things do kick in with these drugs. And yeah,
It,
like some weird
it,
shit happens to people on trend.
I'll talk about my own experience of it. I can remember the first time I took it. OMG. Yes, the whole story, you get stupidly strong on it. You do. I was like dumbbell flying, like I was doing laterals with 40-kilo dumbbells for crying out loud for like reps. But at the same time, it messes with your head. 100% categorically. Insomnia, trend cough.
Yep. Yep.
Cough is horrendous, right? Bed sweats. I can remember in the middle of winter, this is, I woke up the next morning and there was an outline of my whole body on my sheet because I just sweated the shits out. Literally, it's like soaking my bed. It's crazy.
Yep.
But yes, as you were saying, some people's sex drive goes through the freaking roof on it. Some people's hits the floor, and you might as well just like, yeah, okay, retire to a retirement home because you ain't getting it up, you know.
Yep.
But then
Exactly.
that,
Or there's,
or it's the opposite. You are literally waking up with the biggest tent pole in living history, and it don't go down.
yep.
It does not go.
Yep. Yeah, so it's something to be aware of your perception of the world and the perception of how everything kind of everything that you like and everything basically your perception of how people interact with you, it all changes when you're on these drugs. So a lot of people, in my experience, aren't emotionally mature enough and aren't, I hate to get philosophical, but they're not self-actualized enough to actually tolerate using drugs, using Maslow's hierarchy of needs and hitting into self-actualization. God, we go deep here. But like if you've got like a really poor sense of self, steroids aren't necessarily going to solve that problem for you. In
Well, it is
fact, they're going to make it
nicknamed.
worse.
It's like in Europe or in the UK, there's a beer called Stella, right? Now,
Yep.
Stella, you probably know of it.
It's
Stella,
not twat.
yeah, Stella Artois, right? Nicknamed wife beater, right? Over here,
Yeah.
you know. Okay,
It's
it's probably like VB or something back home in Oz,
baby. Yep.
or two E's. But at the same time, you've got like Trent is the wife beater of the gear world, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is literally takes you on another level. But the toxicity levels, we'll just talk about that for a minute. How bad
Yep.
is the toxicity levels on par with? Okay, there's nothing really on par with it in my view. Like it's right at the top of the daddy of like daddies, isn't it? But
Yeah.
the next one down, EQ,
Yep. Agree.
boys, sort of there and there. You're not going to get the side effects as you are from Tren at EQ. It's
No.
there is a big distinct difference, isn't there?
Yeah. So with those, like if we look at the most benign one, side effect wise, it's your low level test because it's a natural compound. Like it's a synthesized version of it, and then like your primo and your master on the kind of like your lowest next lowest ones on the radar, right? So they're probably your, for lack of a better term, your cleanest or safest compounds across the board. But yeah, Trent 100% is the most to neurotoxic and hepatotoxic and kidney toxic and everything toxic compound. Um, and it also, yeah, as we've said, kind of channels aggression and changes your drive. So can it have situational use? Yeah, absolutely. It can be situationally used. Like it's very big in the powerlifting community and the strength athlete community because it increases aggression. Increasing aggression increases lifts. So if you're going into a powerlifting meet, like great, trend is fantastic. It's also very glycogen upregulating. So, if you struggle with retaining glycogen on the cut, training can bring it in, but you certainly don't want to bring it in the last like 2 weeks of a prep because it'll water the shit out of you and it'll just destroy everything. EQ, toxic as well. Absolutely, but EQ is more blood toxic than it is hepato or renal toxic. So with Tren, you've got to be like, aware of your brain health because it's neurotoxic. You need to be taking care of your liver, doing TUDCA or liver stuff. You need to be doing kidney stuff such as astragalus and drinking lots of water. On EQ, you need to get your blood checked because it can do thicken up your blood basically, for lack of a better term. So people on EQ generally need to do blood donation on a regular basis to keep their levels okay. And I've actually come across people who are users of gear who've been banned from actually giving blood away because they've tested their blood and found it's been shit multiple times. So then when they go to actually go to that blood, it's like, no, you're not allowed, bro, because we found that your blood's pretty much useless
Yeah.
to give to people and you're taking drugs. So we don't give that drug to people. And they've had to go get a private nurse to come do bloodletting at their house or something like that, which is, again, like, are you willing to do that for very slightly more hypertrophy? And most people, that shouldn't even be a question that you need to ask someone. Like it would be, it's a, if you work a 9 to 5 job and you're making 200,000 quid a year and you've got a family and stuff like that and you have no aspirations of being a bodybuilding stage, the simple idea that you're thinking about, yeah, I'm going to get some private nurse to come draw blood from my house is fucking asinine.
Well, it's daft. It's stupid. You wouldn't.
Yeah.
Any normal person really would not entertain that. And if you are going to entertain that, then you really need to go and see a psychologist because to go
Yeah.
through all of that, drag your family through that as well, is just ridiculous. Just for
Yeah.
5, 10, maybe 20 pounds of muscle tissue over a few year period of doing it isn't gaining. You're not going to gain anything out of that. It's minimals. So yeah, I just think it's sort of like now starting to, how to put it, be a fashion parade now. I think the old back in our day, you could walk into the gym and you could basically you'd have to really search for a person to be on gear. Where now
Yeah.
you've got to really search for a person who's not on any gear, and that's from
Today
all.
you just have to go on Instagram.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
my Instagram, I could literally go, yeah, gear, 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 along the way.
Yeah. And the vast majority of influencers now, male influencers in the fitness realm, are all on gear, and they're putting themselves through very hard to sustain cycles of drugs and also training and caloric restriction
Mm,
to look the way that they look. And sure, they look great, they're in incredible shape and all that type of stuff. Uh, their mental function highly compromised, their sexual function non-existent, their health markers pretty bad,
shot.
and they it's the thing that I've said to quite a few of them that I've consulted with is that if your entire business model is based on your physique, you've got a shelf life, and in your short shelf life, like you're not like you're not fucking Twinkies which last forever. You're you're like fresh food. Like you're gonna go out of date very quickly, and what's gonna happen is A, your health's gonna suffer, but B, you're gonna be financially destitute. So you need to, that's from their point of view, they're taking it just to make money on Instagram or whatever it is. Cool, you'll make money, you might make money for a while. There's a ton of influencers that have huge followings because of how they look, but they've monetized it not worth a damn. Like it's not worth any money whatsoever. You might get some sponsorship deals for food and shit like that. But if you think that just building the muscle tissue and looking good is going to make you loaded, like you got another thing coming.
Yeah, it's literally like there's two guys, two twins. They're called they're nicknamed what? Their actual
I've
YouTube
heard of
channel is
these.
called the Trend Twins. Now, one of them, oh my god, I don't know, are they like 21, 22, something like that?
Very young. Yeah.
Very, very young guys, anyway. And should have seen the pec tear one of them had. Oh, it's disgusting.
Ugh,
It is
that's
at
great.
22, 21, 22, massive pec tear. And I'm like, oh my God, that's it. That's career ended. That's like, that's going to be there forever. There's no ifs, buts, maybes about that, and if it's stayed attached, but he's got severe, say, grade three tear of the belly, that's going to show no matter what down the line. No matter what, you can take all the peptides on top of that and have extra stuff put in on top. Ain't going to fix it. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
some of the common side effects that you're seeing a lot more of with people you work with, what are you actually seeing?
Hair loss happens a lot for a lot of people. I am not in that category of hair loss ever. Um, I
Neither.
get a haircut every damn. I need to get one every 2 weeks. My hair's thick as hell. This is like literally thinner than what it was, which is wild. So hair loss happens a lot, but people they got finasteride and they get hair transplants for that. There's a whole other side effects with finasteride with PFS syndrome and stuff like that, or P PF syndrome, post-finasteride syndrome. Then you've got acne. We're going to go visible to the non-visible first. So acne on the back. Okay, that is a side effect for a lot of people. It's very indicative that you're not processing it well. Okay, there's always something else going on with acne. Um, from there, like you've seen it on the back and the shoulders and stuff like that. People who get it. Hair growth, again, that's not like on the back and stuff like that. I don't think that's a negative side effect as much. It's a consequence of more androgenic hormones. So we don't, same with the hair loss on top. So from then the side effects, what we see internally, like in the blood work type thing. Actually, the biggest side effect I'm seeing now, sorry, before I go into that, is neurological. So I'm seeing neurological dysfunction in people who are taking the gear. You literally see them get dumber, is what I'm seeing. And when I see people get dumber, it's kind of like you can watch someone over a number of years. You see their ability to make rational decisions changes, their ability to reason changes, their logic gets worse, and their interpersonal skills actually become worse and worse and worse. So, like, we could go into the standard consequences of like, yeah, your liver health markers get shit. So you start seeing poor liver health, you start seeing poor kidney health, you start seeing elevated blood pressure, you start seeing elevated resting heart rate, all these type of things. But they all exist, right? So let's not pretend they don't. Um, the most those are all to an extent quite treatable. So liver, like just as some blanket recommendations, TUDCA for the liver, and N-acetylcysteine for the liver, astragalus for the kidneys, fish oil, krill oil, cardiovascular training for cardiovascular health, all those things, massive impacts. It's the neurological impacts that are the longest lasting and are probably the most impactful in people. Uh, And that's what I don't think gets discussed a lot about. Like most people who use gear are aware that their liver will probably get tanked at some point, particularly if they use orals. Because orals have to be processed by the liver. If things are injected, they don't have to be processed by the liver, but to anywhere near the same extent. So it's a good thing we don't have to stress about it. But cognitive side effects, so the loss of memory, the changes in uh, mood, all the neurological symptoms of using high amounts of gear, that's where I'm seeing the biggest problems in people because the hardest thing to tell someone is that they're not the same person who they were before and they're changing.
Yeah.
Like it's really hard to tell someone, by the way, dude, you're a fuckhead now that you're on gear and you're an idiot. And like there's no like lovely way to say that. But your problem solving ability has changed, your logic has changed, you've become a less enjoyable person to be around, and socially you're awkward as fuck. Like it's just not a comfortable conversation to have someone. And people, it's very hard to make people aware of their cognitive function because they just feel like they're the exact same person because they exist in that body.
Yeah.
So that's where I see the biggest side effects now. And a lot of people aren't really aware of it. And the amount of people I've seen go on gear have it destroy their relationship ends after they go on gear within 1 or 2 years. And the reason their relationship changes because they change for the negative.
Mm.
So more selfish activities, um, shorter fuses, less tolerance for people. Again, logic and everything changes. So all those things I think make a massive difference.
Yeah,
And that's what I'm saying.
I definitely see like, you know, you see that just in social media alone, where people's tolerance levels of social like interaction or people asking questions because they're inquisitive of what's going on, etc., is like a lot less. It's like moods are thrown back, so on and so on. I can understand it. It's a case of it is part and parcel of doing PEDs. But if we were going to go the other end of the extreme, right, and someone came to us and said, "What's the best cycle to consider starting?"
Cool. All right. So I would say we want to get a testosterone base, number one. It's the main thing that we're looking at. And I would first of all say, let's get your blood work and see where you're at. Like,
Yeah,
just to,
yeah,
I missed that, but let's get your blood work, see where you're at, because let's make sure that we're proactive about the things that are already problematic, if there is something problematic. So if someone comes to me, we get their blood work and they're not like wrecked, I'm like, cool, we're good to go. Like, let's hit this up. I got one guy who is coming to me for like a HRT, TRT cycle back home. I hope he's got his blood work done because I've been delaying letting him get anything until he gets his goddamn blood work done. Um, I found out through another source that the guy's a heavy drinker, right? So heavy drinker with a shit sleep cycle. So my first cycle thought is for this guy is that is it actually going to solve the problem that you're having? And it's not for this guy. So the conversation will be go around, look, maybe you just need to go to bed and not drink so much, hey, and you probably feel pretty good. Um, and then if after that testosterone's still bad, which it might be because of his age, then you're going to feel fucking amazing. And that's great. And we're good with that. Um, for most people, baseline test, and I generally go in a see as you go cycle. So I'll start someone on whatever milligrams of testosterone it is, and you're going to hold that for, 4 to 8 weeks, as an example, just to see, all right, cool, how are you going? How are you feeling? Are you getting any side effects? Because the one thing we can do with blood work is we can see where the genetic weaknesses are in terms of organ health and stuff like that. But what we can't see is the genetic tolerance to drugs. and everyone has a different window for tolerating drugs
Well, yeah,
of all types.
what like what you can take in comparison to what I could take are two different things. But most people nowadays is like, well, he's taking a gram a week. Well, I'll take a gram a week. Next minute, it's like I'm in hospital, and he's all right. You
Yeah, and
you've got to be it's you've got to trial and error to the but take minimal amount and see what they are, where your markers are at, see what your tolerances are at by taking it up a little bit at a time. Not,
yep,
oh my God, I'm on half a gram a week. 6 weeks in, I'm going to double it. I'm going to go to a gram a week. No, 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 it's not enough. I'm going to double that again. I'm going to go 1.5 grams a week. You're going up too quick physiologically for your body to understand it, let alone process it. And you're like, oh my God, next minute, yeah, you've got blues and twos outside your house and you're going to hospital.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and that the whole thing about he's on the gram or 2 grams, so I must take a gram. I can do that too. It's kind of like it's one of life's great cruelties that with gear, there's three categories. There's hyper responders, so people when they start injecting, they just literally turn into a balloon. They just swell, like they just get jacked. Awesome,
Phil,
awesome to be there. All
Phil,
right, they just fill in. There's yeah, they go. Yeah, Phil Heath. He's the like perfect genetic example of a
yeah,
bodybuilder. He was a fucking basketball player first. Like
yeah,
Jesus,
no.
man.
And literally
Um,
19, he jacked up, and that's the next minute. He didn't actually do gear for his first 3 years of competitive bodybuilding.
Yeah, which is crazy. So he's like, genetic hyper responder. Then you got your middle of the road people, which can be, they gain muscle, they get stronger, but it's not like they're like, oh my God, that guy's like using everything under the sun, which you think of if you saw Phil Heath and you didn't realize. And then you got your non or your hypo responders who will take gear and they'll get very little of the muscle gain outcomes that you think they would. And they generally get like a high amount of the um, side effects. And for those people, man, life's not fair.
Mm.
Like we can just say life's not fair. And it does happen for some people, and generally people of different ethnicities, it does happen a little bit more for some people due to genetics, which, again, is it fair or not? It's not fair, but it's reality, so we have to live in it, which sucks. And there's really not too much that you can do about it. So if someone's like a hypo responder that don't respond to gear, just doing more and more gear becomes really counterproductive because the health consequences become worse and worse. And those health consequences make it harder and harder to recover from the actual training that you do. So people who are hyper responders, it's kind of like, sorry, bro, you should either get off it and or just be happy with it, like basically TRT for the rest of your life, and that's as high as you can kind of go without getting sick. For the hyper responders, yeah, they can elevate over a period of time, uh, really, really quickly. So anyway, with the cycle, like start with testosterone, and then what you would generally add is you would add the DHT derivative as your next compound, which is either going to be a primobolan or a masteron. And you can do either of them. And generally, I recommend that people do either of them because some people respond to one and don't respond to the other. So I think the stats are like 60% of people respond better to primo than masteron. Like this is circumstantial and
I'm lucky.
experience based versus like there's no study saying 60% of people respond to Primo. Like I know I've taken Primobolan and like a lot of people love it. I get nothing from it. I'm like, this is shit. There's no positives, there's no negatives, there's no positives for me. Whereas I take Masteron, I know like literally within 2 days of using Masteron, I get a significant uptick in gym strength and performance. It's very evident to me because I pay attention to the variables that I'm looking at. So cool. I've introduced, let's just say I'm on 250 tests. Cool. I'm going to add 50 milligrams of Masteron because I've got my 250 test. I feel comfortable. I feel good. No side effects. Happy days. Cool. I'm going to add a DHT derivative. The reason we would do another compound is so we basically minimize estrogen issues that you could potentially have from pushing up your test too high. Now, when I add in my master on, what you should be doing is, all right, cool. Am I noticing over the next like 1 to 4 weeks in my gym performance? Master on primo. All right, cool. my strength went up significantly. All right, cool. This is exciting. So, um, or I look drier, or whatever it may be. You notice what the effect the compound has because like there's each compound has a different effect for a different person. Then once you've done your, say you get your master up to a certain level, cool. Like for most people in the safer use world, I'm like, cool, I'm happy with your test master slash primo. Then what you might do is add a DHC derivative like Deca if necessary, if you're looking for strength gains or you've got like soft tissue issues. So for each of the compounds, it's like understanding how they all work and what they kind of provide for people.
Yeah,
And then for most people, what I do just to kind of shift gears just a little bit is I actually recommend moving into the non-androgenic anabolic compounds, but into the other compounds that will enhance the action of steroids rather than taking just more total milligrams of gear.
yeah. Safe
Because like if you just
way of
you
doing it.
go,
Safer way of doing it. Um, but by upping instead of upping different extra compounds, added extra compounds to that, or of a DH, or increasing the amount, you're taking it a safer route.
and distributing it over multiple systems. So
Yeah,
the thing with stress, like of an organ, is or stress of a drug or something like that. Like let's just say we're taking orals. We're going to use orals as an example. All oral drugs. So this is your caffeine. Like I'm going for a caffeine here. Your non-steroid anti-inflammatories, your painkillers,
yeah,
your D-bols, your anavars, all those types of drugs. They
sure.
all get broken down by one pathway in the liver, which, to make myself sound really smart, is cytochrome P450 enzymatic pathway. I just wanted to sound smart for a little bit. Cool. So if I'm taking all these compounds that are broken down by that one pathway, is that one pathway going to get compromised? More
Yeah,
than likely, right? But if something's been broken down here and broken down there and broken down there, the body can handle multiple stresses. It's designed to. It's just not designed to take all the stresses in one thing. So, like, put it this way, you can a fist is a pretty small thing, right? Like it's not like a huge object, but you can take a punch from one pretty hard and you can still be okay. You put that into the size of a bullet and take something the same thing, you've got a hole through your head.
yeah,
It can kill you, right? So it's the actual concentration of one particular thing at one point that causes the damage.
mhm,
Uh, so that's when, cool, once we've gotten like a base level of compounds that we're happy with, we can look at things like injectable carnitine. Injectable carnitine, totally legal, totally safe. Will improve the action of our androgens work,
yep,
increase our number of androgen receptors and stuff like that. Happy days. Insulin, for example, can be good for increasing glycogen regulation and uptake pre and post training, which is improves recovery from training and protein synthesis. Like people
sure.
say insulin's unsafe. Using a shit ton of insulin is unsafe, but using like,
What?
for every unit of insulin, it basically allows you to tolerate 10 more grams of carbs. So
Yeah,
if you're having 80 grams of carbs post-workout, having 5 IU of insulin, you're not going to die. And the worst case scenario is you eat a little bit more food if you feel a bit flat. And I've gone hypo from insulin use, and like it's not fun. It's really
no,
not fun, but it's solvable. It's very solvable, and it's very short term. And
yeah,
then you've got things like growth hormone,
yep,
which growth hormone basically not perpetuates, what's the word? Attenuates, enhances the actions of all steroids.
yeah, yeah,
But then growth hormone used at a low dosage, like 1, 2 IU per day, very, very safe. Is used in clinically practice for lots of different conditions, so like growth hormone deficits. At higher dosages too. Generally with growth hormone, most people, the cost is prohibitive because it's expensive as shit. Um, so yeah, I like to distribute, and then you got to make sure you're taking creatine and all the usual crap that people need to do for bodybuilding. So
mhm,
if you distribute your stresses over a multiple
way.
drugs, foods, etc., you're generally going to be in a pretty good space most of the time, and you can get pretty strong and not have any issues. Pretty strong, pretty jacked, and be okay.
Cool. So, what do you think's the biggest common mistake with taking PEDs?
Biggest common mistake with taking PEDs. The common mistake is starting with orals. Starting with orals, and because I had one guy who begged and begged and begged and begged and begged to start, and he didn't really want to take the needle because
Got to take the needle.
because he does now, but he took Anavar within 3 days, and this is like 1 to 2 tablets a day of Anavar, like one tablet a day of Anavar is not much,
What, 20
and yeah, his feet were like literally were like clown feet after like 2 or 3 days. His kidneys started shutting down after 2 to 3 days. Hyper-responder to drugs and hyper-responder to side effects. So 3 days in Anavar, he's like, my feet are swollen, I can't fit them in shoes. I'm like, bro, your kidneys are dying. Like, you need to get off that shit straight away. And yeah, so I see that mistake all the time, or I'm going to do, and then the other mistake I see is, I fucking hate when I say this, Deca only cycles. Like doing a,
I've got a story about this. So
uh,
I was PTing years ago, and there's a very famous bodybuilder or ex-bodybuilder now, been on the Olympia stage, famous British person, very big influencer now. And I can tell you some of the cycles he used to chuck out were unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And no joke, gave this guy, he's come and train in my gym. He came and did my PT course a few years back, well, good 8 years ago, 9 years ago. Came and did that with us, and phoned me up one night. He goes, Chris, mate, I've got a problem. I was like, what's the problem? He goes, look, I was having sex with my wife. I was like, right, yeah, what's the problem? He goes, well, we're actually in the middle of it, and I was like on top of her, doing the action, and my dick went soft in the middle of it. What is it? Oh, mate, you got Decker dick. He was
yep,
banging shitloads of Decker in, and I mean a lot. He goes, mate, luckily I caught it, and I managed to get it up semi hard again, and like we finished off. He goes, but next day, it was like this. Just I could hardly feel it. I said, mate, you got Decker
yep,
dick. This is a real
yep,
common thing.
absolutely.
Real common thing. Don't overdo the Decker.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a guy, he called me, he's like, he worked with me beforehand. I put him on like the safer use stuff cycle, and he wasn't satisfied with it. He wanted more. And I was like, bro, you haven't done it for long enough. Like, chill. And I don't really have, you probably vouch for this. Not that I've ever been like this to you, but like I have pretty low tolerance for stuff,
Yeah,
for bullshit and stuff. I'm just like, well, fuck off. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, this is how we're doing it, because I have your best interest at heart, not because I want to make you happy. Uh, that's one thing as a coach of this stuff. I do everything, all my decisions are made with your best interest at heart
definitely.
and not based on a moral judgment. Like, because the moral judgment, it's like, oh, never do steroids. You're going to do them. Cool. I want you to do them safely. And I want you to live a long and healthy life. That's my kind of,
Nice.
that's our Hippocratic oath, right? And he wanted to do more harder. And I've actually lost a few clients and people who want to do more harder that I've stopped them from going harder every single time for reasons. And I've explained those reasons. And I don't really compromise on that, just because I don't think it's like, I just don't think it's necessary. To compromise on what's going to keep this person alive and not give him side effects. Anyway, so he went and saw this other coach and pretty heavy deco only cycle. And he was doing okay. Like he got strong and all that stuff, which you expect. So all power to him with that. And then I get a message, hey man, can I have a consult? I feel shit. I'm like, okay, tell me how you feel. And he's like, man, I'm fucking like, I feel suicidal. Like I feel really depressed all the time. Like business is going great, training's going great, everything's amazing like technically, but I just fucking hate everything. And I just listened for a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I listened to him let him have his moment to vent because that's also valuable. And then I said, tell me what you're taking. And he's like, Deca only, how much he was taking. And I was like, cool. Do you still have any testosterone left? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, all right, cool. I want you to get off the call here now. I want you to go and fill up a needle. I want you to put like 1 million of test, and I want you to get 250 milligrams. I want you to take it, and then we're going to jump on the call tomorrow in 2 days, and we're going to see how you feel. And he's like, okay, I trust you. I'm like, cool, thanks. Yeah, hang up. Booked the call in 2 days. How you feeling? Fucking amazing, man. Thank you. And I was like, yeah, because you tanked your testosterone from taking only purely Deca, and you tanked your estrogen,
Yeah,
so which you need for cardiovascular health and also for mood.
yeah.
So now you feel okay. So what you've got to do is you got to maintain a testosterone base the entire time because Deca will trash you by itself as a compound.
Yeah.
Um, another guy and like another guy who wants to blast trend. He's like, I want to do a cycle of trend. I want to do it hard because it'll get me big. He's a hyper responder. I've literally said to him, the only way you're ever gonna let I'm gonna let you do trend is if you get your blood pressure to 110 over 70 and your resting heart rate to below 60. And he's on gear. He's not gonna have to do it. Like he's not gonna have the capacity to do it. But again, if he does do it, let's say he does by some miracle get his cardiovascular health to that level, he will be in the best possible place to use Trent
Yeah. Yeah.
because he'll be the healthiest that he's ever been. Um, so like I don't want to put Trent on a or it's like petrol on a fire. We want to like cool. We want to put in the embers once everything's
Yeah.
gone out. So I'm very much with these issues that people have. I'm very much like cool. Let's work out what's gone wrong and let's set some really unobtainable goals if you want to do something fucking stupid. Because then, in the worst case, I'm never going to do the thing
Mm. But there is a
that I
time
need
and a
to do.
place for trend. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, absolutely,
In a
absolutely. I agree. It's
cycle for a
situational.
show, yeah, there is like a time and a place for using trend. But man, there's so many people like just nah, straight in, bang, you know,
Yeah,
200 megs of trend, 200 like 500 megs of test. Oh my god, you're like week one into your cycle for a show. What the hell are you
yeah,
doing? You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's crazy. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time, mate, but I
Oh,
think
good.
this is the most like abused subject on the internet at the moment with guys. I am doing a TRT cycle
No,
of
you're not.
500 megs of testosterone a week. I am honestly, I'm on TRT. Please don't say anything more. I'm on TRT, right at 500 meg. That's my TRT.
Yeah. Like, have you had that tested and seen what your blood levels are to see if you actually are in DRT? Because as soon as you're above the high mark in that, you're no longer on TRT. You are just using anabolic steroids.
Mm-hmm.
And I look, I don't have a problem with someone using anabolic steroids. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't have a problem with it. Like, I don't think there's a moral judgment there. People are just saying they're on TRT when they're using steroids to way to get away with it and say that and to basically get rid of the negative stigma associated with being on steroids.
Mm.
Like, like you see this influencer who's like, 5% body fat, jacked as hell and stuff like, oh, yeah, I'm just on TRT. No, you're not. Like, don't like you're just fucking lying just to
Mm.
get people to buy your program because ain't nobody in any TRT clinic going through that. Now, if someone's in TRT clinic, it's because they can't get their dick up. It's because they're depressed. It's because they've got no energy. They've got no drive. They've got none of that stuff for life. And that's where TRT with a doctor even if they can't get a doctor to do it, putting them on like small dose cycle to get them up to a good level. And you only need a small amount of testosterone to get you to a comfortable level, to get you feeling so much better. Like that is a very different place than actually using TRT. So even when you use TRT, some of the clients that I've had on proper medical TRT are doing anywhere between 80 to 100 milligrams of total testosterone per week.
Mm.
Like it's a small amount. So if you're taking five times that, unless you're five times that person in size or five times faster at metabolizing gear, which I can guarantee you're not using TRT.
No.
You're just lying. And you're justifying it. And
Look,
it's better off to say you're on gear.
it's like me saying, right, well, I'm on 250 a week. So I'm on a mil, right? Divided into two, microdosing. I'm not on TRT, but I could probably go. Well, I know I can go for my bloods, and I've had my bloods done, and I know where my testosterone levels are at, and I know how bad it was. So why do I think I'm on this level? Because A, it's not stupidly high, but it's not TRT. TRT is a lot lower.
Yeah,
You know what I
you're
mean?
above it. Yeah. And that's okay. Like I've been on about 125 per week.
Hmm.
So I would say like very, very like I'm on the precipice of TRT slash not TRT.
Yeah.
But I've like told people like very upfront about it. It's like I'm doing a cycle when I get back from New Zealand. I'm going to do a proper cycle to push up weight a little bit, push up performance for a little bit because I haven't done it for a long time. In fact, I've never actually done a proper like hard cycle. And the reason why I'm doing a proper hard cycle is to see what the potential is with that. I know I've only got like 3 more years. Like if I ever want to do anything with bodybuilding, just be a show and be competitive on stage. I know exactly how long I've got. I know where my health markers are. I know where my weaknesses are, my proclivities are. That's a risk that I'm willing to take, but I'm not going to. I don't think doing one hard cycle, by the way, is actually that negative to people's health, unless because one hard cycle, it's like fuck. How many 20-year-olds drink every weekend, like Friday,
Oh,
Saturday, Sunday,
oh,
Thursday for
well,
like 5 years?
like we're saying earlier, right? If you look on the internet now, it's easier to find who's on gear than who's off gear. You walk into a gym, it's easier to find people on gear than it is off gear. But most of those people are taking stupid amounts of gear and going up to the pub on a Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, and boozing it up on top of taking gear. So a 20-year-old at this moment in time is probably lit in blood work a lot unhealthier than I am,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I'm nearly 50. You know what I mean? There is a big differences between what people think are doing. Oh yeah, I'm doing this. No, you're not doing it right. If you're going to do it right. If you're not going to do it and you're going to continue to eat shit, drink, take recreational drugs on top, etc.,
Hmm.
don't bother doing it. Don't bother
Yeah, I
doing it.
know that. I know I'll be sleeping 8 hours, or roughly, well, I have a kid, so let's just say 8 hours. Like she sleeps well, so let's just say 7 hours a night at least, but preferentially eight. I know that I'll be doing 20 to 30 minutes of cardio every morning. I've already written a cardio program, which is more performance cardio rather than just health, which improves VO2 max faster. I know that I won't be drinking. I know that I don't take any hard drug like party drugs. I know that I'll be eating X amount of vegetables, the right amount of protein, all that type of stuff and drinking water and all the markers I need to do every day to hit that. I'm very comfortable with doing those behaviors.
Mm,
Um, I've done it before. Like I've done that without the high amount of drugs, right? So it's only going to work better in terms of it's only going to work better in terms of results, like putting drugs on top of that. But I know that for that period of time, like I'm not going to do anything. Like I'm drinking a bit of wine and stuff like that here while I've been over in New Zealand, and I'm okay with that because I'm not taking
yeah.
any gear at the moment at all. There's no gear in my system, or probably
Mm,
there's a little bit left, but it's nearly gone now. And with that, like I'm okay with that because no one will blink an eye at someone drinking a bottle of wine a week,
no.
versus by someone's injecting 250 milligram of testosterone per week. Oh, you're destroying your liver. The wine's worse.
Hell yeah.
The wine's more detrimental to your health than that. Now, if I was drinking 10 bottles of wine a week, people might say something, but they'd also say something if I was blasting 10 grams of gear a week. They're
Mm,
both really bad for you. So again, the dosage is the poison, and then the environment is the poison as well.
mm.
So that's how I look at it for most people.
So with the level of TRT, right? Just so everyone understands, what is basically a technical baseline of a TRT treatment, i.e., medical TRT treatment, not bro TRT. I'm on TRT, yes.
Not bro TRT. So generally what the doctor will do is they'll do blood work, see how low you are, and then put you on a very low dose and like take a number of ways to boost that up, a number of weeks to boost that over time. If we're just going to give a number, 0.5 to 1 milligram per kilo body weight for most people puts them in the TRT.
Right.
So if I'm 100 kilos, like, I'm on 50 to 100 milligrams a week,
Mhm.
which is most testosterone in Anthonate comes in 250 milligrams per mil.
Yep.
So I'm on like it'd be like half a mil a week. For
Yep.
a quarter to half a mil a
Cool.
week is TRT for most people.
Mm.
For females, which we'll talk about in our next one, because females have HRT and TRT, it's a lot less.
Yeah, yeah. It's like point zeros, isn't it? Instead.
You can't even you can barely see it in the needle. But there's a lot of stuff I'll talk about next time we talk about like measuring voice and stuff like that for females for seeing
Yeah.
how they respond to TRT.
Yeah, especially with the old Anavar that does the nice voice box very, very well.
Yeah, it does, bro. It does. Not that I have a deep voice anyway. You can one of the side effects of testosterone injection that I've never received, the deepening of the voice or the growth of facial hair. Like I just haven't copped any of it.
I'm all right. I haven't really had anything. I had in my very early stages a little bit of acne on my back, but that's when I was taking Tren with it.
Yeah, so it's more likely the trend.
Or mast. Um, Otherwise, not really much. Yeah, no, like hair loss. No, I'll probably say a little bit hairier on my arms, but other than that, that's it. I've been pretty lucky with it, to be honest.
Yeah, I just wanted the facial hair, but
Well, you wanted
it wasn't in the plans for
it.
me,
You wanted the
which
beard.
is all good. Yeah, no beard for Paul.
We
But
can't
all good.
can't all have beards, mate. So yeah,
No, no.
so just to round this up, what would be your three do's and three don'ts with taking PEDs?
Cool. Three do's. Number one, blood work. Number two, get someone to guide you through the process who's done it before, who has your best interest at heart. Number three, do the other stuff that makes a difference to maximize your progress, like the proper training, proper nutrition, etc., that we all know we should do. They'll maximize your progress and minimize your side effects. Don't do not start by blasting fucking trend. That's always number one. Like, don't be an asshole. Number two, don't think that anyone else's cycle has any bearing on what cycle you should be having. It's like I don't look at anyone's meal plan and think I have to eat that to get the same results as them because it doesn't work that way. And number three, don't think that blood work and all those things don't apply to you because of your age or background or whatever it is. You don't know what's going on underneath the hood without lifting it up.
Yep.
So it's don't fall prey to ignorance. So as an example, like when I get back to Sydney, I'll order it probably tomorrow. I normally do my blood test through iMedical, which in Australia is like private testing. Just the reason I do it is because it's so much more convenient. And I'd rather pay like 100 and something dollars or 200 bucks to get my blood work within one day and not have to worry about having to get a doctor's consult to get my own results back.
Yeah.
Because I understand how to interpret it. Like I'll probably order that on, what was it? I am this week. I'm landing back in Sydney on Monday. I will, if I look at my dates and stuff like that, I've got all my stuff that I need to get from my cycle. Like it officially kicks off on the 2nd of June. Uh, no, 2nd of June is when we get back. So it'll kick off on the 9th. I'll have my bloods done on probably the Wednesday, the 4th. Uh, for there because then if anything's under the hood that I need to fix up, I at least know what it is, and then I can kick into my process from there. So don't think it doesn't apply to you. Like even though I've been doing it for a long time and I've coached it and I lecture in it, I'm still getting my bloods done because I'm not dumb enough to assume I'm okay, which is what a lot of people do.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Thanks very much, buddy, for this. Really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to the next part. Obviously, part two, guys. This is for the girls, part two, which is going to be very, very interesting because I think this applies even more than this does for the guys. And I think it's on the mass increase
Oh, absolutely. I'm pumped for this one. It'll be fun.
in the women's sector. But guys, this is the No Bullshit Gymcast podcast. Host Chris, wishing Paul safe journey back home to Oz, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one. Guys, girls, peace out.